Today in this video, I'll be ranking the best and worst Dead by Daylight killer playstyles to go against as Survivor. If you disagree with any of them, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear what playstyle you think is the most fun to play against. Let's not waste any more time. Starting with Demogorgon, in my opinion, he's one of the most fun killers to play against, no matter how they play. Personally though, my favorite type of demo are the demos that go for crazy shreds from high places, or the demos that use collision exploits to pull off some crazy hits. My least favorite demo playstyle would probably be the demos that just constantly force 50-50s at shack or other tiles where every window interaction is just up to chance. Next up for twins, my favorite playstyle are the people that don't play twins. No, in all seriousness though, I do enjoy twins matches when the twins player is creative with Victor and uses him for chases and gives the survivor the respect of a 1v1. The worst playstyle would probably be the twins players that camp and only use Victor for chases, so Charlotte can camp a hook. Honestly, it just doesn't really feel that fun to go against. My favorite playstyle for Ghostface would have to be whenever they immerse themselves in the role, using their night shroud to stalk survivors and all around use their stealth to catch survivors off guard. Honestly, it usually makes for really fun matches where I'm caught off guard a lot. My least favorite playstyle though are probably the ghost faces that only use their stealth to 99 survivors and then just start a chase, pop the exposed last second, and get an instant down. Those matches kinda just feel like a Myers match with a different font. Playing against the Knight, no matter how he plays, can feel really stressful. Although personally, my favorite way to play against this killer is when he uses his power in creative ways, to zone me out of areas or tiles while using himself somewhere else to force the survivor exactly where he wants them. The playstyle I dislike the most for Knight would probably be when he primarily just uses his power to go for 2-hit combos, and isn't usually interested in actually chasing the survivor, but rather just going for an easy 2-hit combo down. Oh, and camping. I really don't like knights that use their power to camp survivors. Most Oni players are really fun to go against, no matter how they play. In my experience, the better an Oni, the more fun it is, because the skill ceiling for him is just as high as Survivor's ability to evade him. If I had to pick the best playstyle for Oni, it would probably be curve or flick Onis, the ones that push their power to the max by going for crazy M2 downs. The worst playstyle for Onis would probably just be the Onis that use their powers to break pallets and to traverse the map, but don't use their power to chase too often. The most fun Legion playstyle to go against, in my opinion, is the Legion that will use his power to chase you and use it more to his advantage in chases, rather than just use it to repeatedly injure everyone and waste time. On that same line, the worst Legion playstyle is probably the Legions that just constantly put everybody into deep wound, and the Legions that never commit to any chases, unless the survivor is out of position. Those games honestly just get really repetitive and stale, and I don't find them too fun. The best playstyle for Nemesis would probably be just him using his normal kit. I find going against his power is usually just fun in chase, because there's a lot of back and forth from the killer and the survivor in chase. And his whip is really fun to try and dodge. The worst playstyle for Nemesis though would probably be when they're too afraid to use their whip and they only M1. My personal favorite playstyle for Blight would just be any Blight that's insane with his movement. He is the killer that I do worst against, but even then, I always have fun against a Blight that can curve literally anything. It always makes the chases so interesting and engaging. The worst type of Blight though are the Blights that use Alkring. Nerf Alkring. My favorite type of Huntress to go against has gotta be the cross-map Huntress. The snipes that these Huntresses are able to pull off are beyond impressive, and always so fun to try to predict and avoid. My least favorite Huntress style to go against has gotta be zoning Huntresses, who just hold their axe up indefinitely to zone the survivor. It is one of the strongest things they can do, so I get it, but personally, I don't find it very fun. The best playstyle for Trickster would probably be just his base kit, no add-ons. Games against Trickster are usually very hit or miss, but I find the games I enjoy most are usually just against base kit Trickster and normal chases. The worst would probably be his Ricochet and Shatter add-ons, since both of those add-ons just allow spam, which doesn't really seem like fun for either side. For Plague's playstyle, if I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be Plagues that use their red puke a lot in chases and over objects. I personally love trying to dodge it, and there's always such a thrill when you're able to loop a Plague that's in power without getting hit or going down. The worst playstyle for Plague would probably be the Plagues that zone by holding their power and just force survivors out of position. There's usually not too much counterplay there. For Trapper, me personally, I prefer when the killer just doesn't use his traps. Mainly because I'm blind as hell when it comes to spotting traps on the ground, and 10 out of 10 times I will hit all of them. Seriously though, my favorite playstyle for him would probably just be his M1 capabilities, while also using traps to shut down loops mid-chase. Simple, but effective. My least favorite trapper playstyle is probably basement trapper, primarily just because those games don't really have too much originality or variety. You pretty much know from the start exactly how it's gonna go. Usually 2 kills and 2 escapes if the survivors play it right. My favorite Wraith playstyle is probably the Wraiths that mind game at loops with their power, whether that be faking uncloaks to force an early pallet drop or uncloaking around a corner to catch a survivor off guard. His chases can be really fun due to his mind game potential. The worst Wraith playstyle is definitely hit and run, where he'll just go around injuring everyone and then leaving, forcing them to heal since he can sneak up on survivors so easily. Hit and run has always just felt a bit bland. In my opinion, every playstyle for Deathslinger is very fun to go against. Just all around, I love going against this killer. If I had to pick the best one though, it'd definitely be quickscoping Deathslingers, as they pull off the most impressive shots. And in my experience, the more difficult it is to evade or predict a killer, the more fun it is. For the worst playstyle, probably just Deathslingers that use their powers to drag someone off hook and wait out the endurance to down them again. Tunneling usually just isn't very fun to play against. The best Bubba playstyle to go against would definitely be the speed Bubbas. They're so fun to play against and funny as hell to watch. As long as you don't greed as a survivor, chases with speed out on Bubbas are pretty fun in my opinion. But for the worst playstyle, definitely basement camping. Without a doubt. My favorite pig playstyle would probably be the immersed pig, or the type of pig that does an excellent job sneaking up on you. The ambush 1v1 mind games are always so fun at pallets, at least in my opinion. For the worst playstyle, it would probably be the pigs that head trap survivors, then just follow them backwards, forcing their timer all the way down. There really isn't too much counterplay available from the survivor. Clown players have a special place in my heart, no matter how annoying they are in chase. For my personal favorite way for them to play, it's gotta be the sniper clowns. The clowns that will lob a bottle across the map and get a direct hit. These players are the most fun to go against. The worst playstyle would definitely be the clowns that use the pinky finger add-on that instantly exposes you when he directly hits you with the bottle. It's really just not that fun to play against. Also kind of a lame iridescent add-on, in my opinion. The best Doctor playstyle would have to be just his normal M1 chase variant. Doctors that time their shocks well are really hard to play against, but also really fun in my opinion. Having to dodge his shock always keeps chases with this killer interesting. The worst playstyle would just be doctors that use their shock to camp hook and not let other survivors unhook someone. Very simple, but very annoying. The best Skull Merchant playstyle is people who don't play Skull Merchant. In all seriousness though, I don't mind her power as it is. It's just so easy to set up a 3-gen with it that it can be unbearable to play against. For the best, I just say any Skull Merchant that doesn't hold a 3-gen like her life depends on it. And for the worst, obviously, 3-gen Skull Merchant. My favorite way Freddy's play would probably be the Freddy's that use dream pallets to fake out survivors instead of blood pools. In my opinion, it adds such a fun level of mind game. It's not as practical as the blood pools, but I enjoy it more. Worst playstyle would probably be Devour Hope or Make Your Choice Freddy. That allows him to go far away from a hook, then just teleport back after the unhook for free stacks and a free down. My favorite type of pinheads are the ones that can pull off some crazy chain shots around corners or through objects. I've honestly always found that playstyle really impressive. For the worst playstyle, I'd probably say Franklin's Demise Pinhead that never lets the survivor solve the box. They make their main goal in the game to just not let the chain hunt end, and nothing annoys me more than the chain hunt. For artist, I'd say the best playstyle is artists that have the ability to use her crows effectively in chase and hit you without having a direct line of sight. It takes so much skill, I can't really be mad when I do get hit by a crow. I think the worst playstyle for her though would be the artists that only hold their crows at pallets or windows and never release them, forcing the survivor to just leave the tile and not really giving any chase opportunities to either side. The best playstyle for Dredge are the jump scare dredges by far. One of the scariest things in the game is when a dredge comes slamming out of a locker right in front of you from across the map, and I love it. For the worst playstyle though, I definitely have to give it to the dredges that only use their remnant to zone you away from loops and aren't interested in using any other part of their kit in chase. It just gets a bit repetitive and doesn't give too much mind game potential detrimental to either side. The best kind of Weskers are the curve Weskers. I don't know how they do it, but some Weskers can curve around literally any tile and land a hit on you. I really have no idea how any of it is possible, but it's always so fun to go against. The worst type of playstyle though is definitely the distance Weskers, basically meaning the Weskers that will only use their power if they can throw you into a corner of the map, making sure that you have nowhere to go so it's a free down. It is a viable way of play, but it still doesn't feel like it has much counterplay, which is why I'm putting it down as the worst. To be honest, I'm not sure about the best or worst singularity playstyle. Since he's still a bit new, I'm not completely sure what the best and worst playstyles are for this killer since I've barely played against him. So let me know down in the comments what you think the best and worst playstyles are. I'd love to hear from you guys. For Onryo though, the best playstyle by far is the Onryos that use their teleportation ability and chase, using it to easily catch a survivor off guard. It's really hard to pull off effectively in a chase, therefore making it a lot more fun to go against in my opinion, since it's rarely done effectively. The worst playstyle would have to be the condemned playstyle, where the killer will just abuse the way the killer works by constantly going in and out of the TVs near survivors, making them easily moreable after 4 to 5 teleports. Not usually fun to go against, especially if you have newer survivors on the team. For Pyramid Head, my favorite playstyle comes from Pyramid Heads that aren't afraid to use their M2 power in chase, using it whenever they have a valid chance. I always find it really fun to go against in a chase. Their worst playstyle though are the Pyramid Heads that won't cage someone after they get tormented, and instead will keep tunneling them till death hook for a quick mori. It always feels a bit cheap when a Pyramid Head does this, not gonna lie. The best spirit playstyle are spirits that don't take spirit too seriously. What I mean by this is most times the best spirits will have their volume at 200% to hear a Meg breathe in the wrong direction halfway across the map, then proceed to teleport behind them and make sure the Meg won't be breathing anymore, period. I understand it's not really too much of a playstyle, but most times a casual player will get destroyed by a spirit like this if they don't come into the match prepared to sweat their ass off. So the best type of spirit is a spirit that doesn't do this, and the worst type is the type that does. Oh, and mother-daughter ring users for obvious reasons. The best playstyle for Hag is legit just Hags that don't camp. It's so easy to put a trap at the hook and just teleport as soon as the unhook happens that I genuinely applaud Hags that don't do that. Although, Hags that do camp the hook aren't the worst playstyle either. For the worst Hag playstyles, it's gotta be collision-based spin Hag that uses add-ons to make it so that the survivors can't run through her traps. Then she just sets up in the basement, confirming kill after kill. Usually just not fun for either side. The best Billy playstyle is a tough one because I absolutely love two of them. The two being Curve Billy and Sky Billy. Although since Sky Billy isn't really a playstyle and more of a creative skill, I'll have to give it to Curve Billies. I always love going against a Billy in general, but when it's a Curve Billy, it just makes it so much better. For the worst playstyle though, I'd give it to M1 Billies that just don't use their chainsaw. It doesn't bother me too much because I like going against all Billy playstyles, but it does take away some of the fun. My favorite Myers playstyle, oddly enough, is Infinite Tier 3. Hear me out, hear me out. I personally find Infinite Tier 3 really fun to go against, since it completely changes how survivors have to play, and it makes the game a lot more interesting and harder while still having counterplay. Plus, it gives survivors an edge against the killer in the early game, then flips it back around late game to make the game a lot more interesting. For worst playstyle, definitely Jump Scare Myers. Not because it's hard to go against, but because nothing in DBD scares me more than a Jump Scare Myers. It catches me off guard 100% of the time. And last but not least, the best nurse playstyle are the nurses that pre-blink, mainly because it has the biggest back and forth in chase. Against a really good nurse, you can't do much, but even if it is a really good nurse, if they're trying to predict blink, it gives a lot more mind game potential from the survivors, which I personally find really fun. For worst playstyle, probably nurses that refuse to blink if they don't have a line of sight on the survivor. Those nurses also usually corner blink every time, no matter what. Most of the time, games with these nurses all go the same. And that's it for the best and worst playstyle of every killer in Dead by Daylight. Before I do my normal outro though, I just want to take a minute and thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. This is such a huge milestone for me, you have no idea, and it means so much to me. Seriously, thank you, each and every one of you, for your support. It really means the world to me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider liking and subscribing if you did. It really does help me out a lot. And as always, I'll see you next week. Good night and peace.